All right, good morning or good afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in. My name is Anthony Cave. I'm one of the digital producers with Harkin's Election SOS project. We're still very active, doing posting resources on everything folks cover post-election, and that's part of the reason why we're doing this panel today. So I'd like to welcome Jeremy Merrill and Karl Evers-Hillstrom. So Karl is the money and politics reporter at Open Secrets. Jeremy has done some work with ProPublica in the past, and he's a data journalist. So I'll take it over, let you guys take it over and kind of get started with this campaign finance session.
Thanks, Anthony, for having me. Let me go ahead and figure out how to share my screen. Here we go. So what I'm going to talk about is one of the effects of campaign finance, the digital advertising that political campaigns and outside groups, lobbyists, industries, those sorts of things are using to try to influence everybody's opinions, both before the election actually happened. So if you're interested in doing stories retrospectively, once digital ads spin up again here in Georgia, or for elections into the future. Bio-wise, I am a data journalist. I've been writing lately for ProPublica, The Markup, as well as a little bit for the Marshall Project and the Washington Post. I was previously at Quartz, and I've been working with the Online Political Transparency Project at NYU to build some of the tools for understanding digital advertising that I'm going to be talking about today. So first, I want to talk about why we care about digital ads in particular, and then give you some practical tips and some quick story ideas, that you could use retrospectively for anywhere in the country, or for the upcoming Georgia runoffs. So as we all probably remember, the Russians used Facebook as well as other places on the internet to spread disinformation during the 2016 election. As a result of some congressional hearings, we actually got to see some of the ads that these Russian trolls were using, Russian government trolls were using, like some of these that were targeted specifically at American Muslims, ones targeted at folks at the right wing, pro-police groups, and a sort of copy of the Black Lives Matter movement, that sort of thing, tons of them. And one of the most interesting things that we got from the data that was given by Facebook to these congressional investigators was the ad targeting information. It's the same for a variety of online ad platforms, but for Facebook in particular, you have the ability to target people based on their location and age, but also based on their interests, for instance. For this Williams and Calvin persona of the Russian trolls, they targeted people who are interested in Martin Luther King Jr., African-American culture, African-American history, or the Black consciousness movement, which tells you about who they were trying to reach with their ads. Back in 2016, none of these ads were visible to the public unless you were in one of these groups, because there was no political ad transparency at all provided by the platforms. Similar stuff from similar ads. Now, as a result of that Russian interference, attempted interference in the 2016 election, Facebook and Google and Snapchat and some other platforms have begun publishing data about all the political ads, or most of the political ads, the ads that they realize are political, that are active on their platforms. Here's an ad that I picked out from Trump that ran in July. What you can see is that it was targeted, this is their political ad library. You can just search for it. It's facebook.com/ad/library. And on its own, it's an okay tool for understanding what's going on. But what I wanted to talk about was that we don't know a whole lot about how this ad was targeted. We know only how much was spent on it, who it was shown to. You'll see that green bar chart was shown only to women, and where it was shown, which is mostly Texas, Florida, North Carolina, Ohio, etc. Where's the targeting data? It's just not there. The Trump campaign used, and I'll tell you why I know this in a second, the Trump campaign used some of those same sorts of options that every digital advertiser, legitimate or not, uses, just like what I showed you from the Russian trolls. But Facebook doesn't make that public. And it's not really clear why. But they do show that to individuals when you see an ad on your feed. And so in order to actually get this information, this ongoing project called Ad Observer, that used to be called the Facebook Political Ad Collector, used to be run by Quartz and ProPublica and some other places, is a browser extension that collects that data, that lets people who participate in the project send that data to us into a database that lets us sort of fill in the gaps of what the campaigns are doing. So for instance, this particular ad, it was a video of a supposed 911 call that went to a voicemail that said, if you're press 2 to report a murder, and said there were 5-day wait times for police responses in Joe Biden's America, was targeted specifically at anybody who is a woman in Maine, who's married, and who Facebook thinks is interested in family. Which again, tells you something about what the Trump campaign was going for with this ad. And it's something that Facebook won't tell you through their ad transparency site. And that is just one of the reasons why we created this website called Ad Observatory at adobservatory.org. That's meant to actually help it answer all the questions, or as many of the questions as we can, that reporters and researchers like you are going to have for writing these stories about spending and messaging in Facebook ads in particular for the elections. So you're welcome to check that site out or now, or just follow along. But what I want to show you is the one place where you can see, this is data you can only get on Ad Observatory, is how the campaigns are targeting their messages. So you'll see that some of Trump's ads were targeted at people who like Barstool Sports. You'll see sort of the second from the top there. Second from the bottom, uploading lists of, this is another tactic that the Russians did not use, is literally making a spreadsheet of all the people who you want to reach with an ad, literally by name: Jeremy Merrill, Anthony Cave, Karl Evers-Hillstrom. Add in the email addresses, upload it to Facebook, and Facebook will go ahead and show your ad to those people. That's second from the bottom here. And then on the Biden side, Biden uses the exact same technique, by the way. It's totally normal, if perhaps a little sketchy. Biden had Facebook ads targeted specifically at moderates and people who like the Avengers or strategy games. Fun stuff. Anyways, here are two stories that you could do this week, retrospectively, about the US election. They're also applicable to the upcoming Georgia election if Facebook ever allows political ads again. Right now, as a not particularly well-received effort to cut down on misinformation on their platform, they've banned all ads about politics, elections, or social issues. And so right now, if you are one of the candidates in the Georgia Senate races, you can't advertise on Facebook. And that's anticipated to end, I believe, in the beginning of December, but we don't know for sure. So right now, there's not a whole lot to see on Ad Observatory about the Georgia races. However, first one is that it might be interesting, again, even retrospectively, to take a look at some of the strange and unknown groups who are spending a bunch of money on Facebook ads in your state. This is a story that I did back in February. It was similar, I think before the South Carolina primary, was a centrist group that was trying to tie Bernie Sanders to the Soviet Union as a way to attack him. So to do this, all you would have to do is go to adobservatory.org, click the states tab at the top, and click your state. And you'll get a chart like this, which the numbers are a little out of date because I took this screenshot in October. This is for, I believe, Michigan. You'll see, Trump and Biden were obviously at the top. We know who they are. Stop Republicans is a Democratic group. ExxonMobil, you know who that is. Their ads are interesting, though. But if you keep looking down, you'll see a group called Work Money. What the heck is Work Money? Probably none of us have heard about that. It's not a typical political group. And it would be an interesting story to figure out who that was and what they were saying in your state. Politico did a little bit of reporting after I prepared this screenshot, and it turns out it was a sort of union-affiliated group that had gotten some mysterious funding to talk about the effects of the coronavirus on the economy to swing state voters in ways that they hoped would encourage them to vote for Democrats. And it's pretty interesting and fairly common tactic for these sort of mysterious groups. This was in the United States. This group was one of the top spenders in the United States. They're also one of the top spenders in Michigan. I believe they were targeting Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania in particular. It's obviously really hard to tell whether any of these digital ad campaigns work, but those were states that flipped to Biden. We also have pages that discuss a little bit about what those groups were up to. You'll see that the Work Money group, their spending spiked in early August and was declining in September. We've also got topic models that talk about what issues the ads are talking about. For a while, they were talking about Donald Trump, for instance. Second story template I wanted to offer to you all is exactly that. What are the issues that these advertisers are talking about? Again, you'll go to adobservatory.org, click on the races tab, and then find a race that's interesting to you. Come December 15th, let's say, either of the Georgia Senate races will be really interesting here. Or you might be interested in, say, the Arizona Senate race. Here you're going to see it's similar to a story I did in March for Quartz about how a lot of Mike Bloomberg's advertising in the primaries, even in Texas, was about gun control, which I thought was pretty surprising. So you'll see here's the Kentucky Senate race. Amy McGrath, who ended up not doing so well, was spending a lot of her advertising discussing the COVID-19 pandemic, while Mitch McConnell was talking about other things like democratic norms. And that's what I've got for you all. You will find that the spending charts here by state will be pretty fascinating, I think. And what is, I think, one of the key things that, this is for the United States, that Ad Observatory brings compared to Facebook's own tool is that Facebook's own tool provides incorrect numbers for the amount of spending by the presidential campaigns. You'll notice if you dig into this data pretty deeply that both the Trump and the Biden campaigns were running ads from a variety of pages with different names. Trump was running ads from his page, but also from Mike Pence's page, and Florida for Trump. For a while, there was a page for Brad Parscale, who used to be his campaign manager. For some reason, when Facebook on their own ad library site tells you how much is being spent by the campaigns, they don't include that. Which I think is a problem, because it means that the numbers that you'd be reporting from there are inaccurate. And so we actually do combine all that together on Ad Observatory, so our numbers are, I think, more reliable. That's what I've got. Carl?
All right, thanks, Jeremy. That is very cool stuff. I will attempt to share my screen as well now. There we go. Is that working? Looks like it. Cool. So, getting a bit of lag here.
No problem. Let's see.
Sorry about that, folks. Can you guys see it now?
Nothing. It's still a black. I mean, it shows you're in. It's showing your desktop. I mean, your two tabs, but not. I don't see. The actual.
We'll give it a minute here. My apologies. While I wait for that to load, maybe I can click here. One thing I'd be probably yelled at if I didn't mention is our own online ad database. And I think, you know, the database Jeremy is showing is awesome for seeing a lot of specific trends with Facebook spending. I think OpenSecrets has its own online ad spending database that looks at Facebook and Google. So one thing it's nice for is sort of seeing just top level overall online ad spenders and seeing how much they're spending, as well as it's also useful because it say if there's several groups that are running, or one group that's running a bunch of ads on a bunch of different Facebook pages, we sort of filter them all into one. So if we were to look at, you know, the Republican voters against Trump group, sort of a never Trump group, defending democracy together, all of the spending by this group is included on one page, so you can get one number easily. And then we can also link to the various pages. So just something useful if you need top level numbers for groups you're looking at. I apologize here. I'm having some technical difficulties getting this to load here. Not sure what's going on.
Do you want to try dropping it in the? I mean, I could try to share it on my screen if we can do it like that. I think that might work.
Yeah. Let me pause it for a second. Here. Okay, I think I've got it up here. Yeah, does this look good?
Yeah, you're good.
For that. I need a better computer. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about some important upcoming FEC deadlines and how we can report on money in politics, you know, relating to the Georgia races, as well as other stories that you might be interested in writing, you know, post-election, because the election is over, but we still have candidates releasing new numbers in December. So the first deadline that comes up is on December 3rd, which is a post-election fundraising deadline. So basically all campaigns that you can think of, all congressional campaigns, the presidential campaigns, super PACs, any kind of group you can think of generally will be filing their fundraising figures, their expenditures, all the information about their group on December 3rd. So that will cover all of their activity from October 15th through today. So I'll talk a little bit more about what kind of interesting stories might be involved in there. And then the other important deadline I know people are interested in is the Georgia Senate deadline. So before the runoff, the campaigns will file what we call a pre-election report, pre-runoff report, which will include all fundraising expenditures from October 15th through December 16th. So that'll be quite a bit of money over 2 months to report on, especially because a lot of these campaigns are getting all the attention, obviously, is going towards this race. And every single political elected official is trying to raise money for the candidates in the Georgia Senate runoffs. One unfortunate thing about this deadline is it is on December 24th. So not the greatest day. I know a lot of us will be trying to spend time with friends and family, things like that. But just to give you a heads up that that's when that's coming out. And you can get a little bit more information about this on the FEC's dates and deadlines page. If you're interested in any other upcoming dates and deadlines, filings, they have a little calendar here. So, okay, understood. So yeah, following FEC filings, I really suggest, if you're interested in finding out more about campaign finance filings, about candidates that you're tracking, is to use the FEC's Notify program. So you can sign up on the FEC's website for this. It's basically a subscription service for any kind of campaign filings. So if you're interested, for example, in the OSOF campaigns numbers, you could just sign up for this, put them in there, and then say that you want notifications for them. And the way this will work is that whenever campaigns file any kind of new filing, you will get an email right away giving you the numbers so you can look at it. And generally, these are emailed to you a lot faster than you would get if you were just like looking through all the filings on the FEC website. So on deadline day, committees have pretty much all day to file their numbers up until midnight. A lot of campaigns wait until midnight to actually do it. So if you want to actually follow them as they come in on the day, you can go on the FEC's website to campaign finance data, filings and reports, and they will be coming in just throughout the day. If you wanted to track them this way, I wouldn't recommend using the FEC's website. I would actually plug ProPublica here and use their FEC itemizer, which is a lot more user-friendly than the FEC's website. So it basically says today's filings. So anyone who's filing anything today, say it's deadline day and you're reporting and you want to see what filings are coming in, you could look here and see what's come in throughout the day. And you can sort by receipts or spending, and that way, if there's any big names that come up, you can see them there. Another thing to note is that if you're reporting on the Georgia Senate race, generally the campaigns will release fundraising totals, before the deadline day. They'll put out a press release saying, David Perdue raised this much, Kelly Lefko raised this much, but they won't provide full details such as, where the money's coming from, top donors, how much of that is coming from small donors. They'll give you a lot of, they'll frankly give you a lot of numbers like we got this many donations from people giving under $100 and Frankly, those numbers are not all that useful because we have no way to contextualize them with standard campaign finance figures. So if you're reporting on the new filings, I think one of the top stories that everyone is going to be looking for on the December 3rd filing, which is all campaigns except for Georgia Senate, is where exactly is the money going from the Trump and Biden campaigns? So the Trump campaign obviously is going on an all-out fundraising blitz amid its attempts to contest the election. So on deadline day, the Trump campaign will put out a filing showing exactly what they're spending money on. You can find it on their FEC page here if you go to filings. And then if you go to, the filing will be here. If you click on it, you'll be able to look at receipts, disbursements. An easier way to do it is to actually download it as a CSV. Looking at where the money's going to, a lot of people have been speculating that Trump is using this to funnel money to his own businesses. For reference, this is an open secrets resource on that. The Trump campaign has spent about $19 million at Trump-owned properties since 2016. So, will he continue to funnel money to his properties in the next filing? As people have expected, there's only one way to find out, and that's by actually looking at the filings themselves. This also applies to the DNC and the RNC are going to be spending a whole lot of money on legal efforts. Both have specific accounts that go toward legal spending that have $15 to $20 million in them. So it'll be interesting to see how much they're spending on the legal battles, which law firms are actually getting paid the most off of this stuff. And then, of course, also we want to write about the Georgia Senate runoffs. So we'll look at, for an example, Jon Ossoff. On the deadline day, once again, there will be a filing here to look at. Now, there's also sort of top line numbers on the FEC's website for these candidates, but there's a few pitfalls here. So, for example, you can look at total receipts. You can look at top contributors. You can also look at where they're spending money to. So if you go to recipient name, you can see Jon Ossoff campaign gave $200,000 to Jon Ossoff. So that's interesting. But one caveat here is that this on deadline day will not be updated. So if you see coverage dates 6/25 to 10/14, basically that means that this is not updated. So on deadline day, Christmas Eve, it's not going to stay through the right date. So this will not be updated. So our website is helpful for that. We actually update what we call summary data sooner than the FEC does. So on Christmas Day, I suppose it would be, you'll be able to look here and see the updated totals for how much the Georgia Senate candidates have raised and spent and how much money they had left as of the end of the deadline. And then you can also look at that information on the election pages. So we have these race pages here. You can go to, you can find it by going to politicians and elections, congressional races, then go to Georgia is the easiest way. So here we have the two races for Georgia Senate. And this data will be updated the day after the reports come out, showing how much they've raised and spent. And then generally about a week after the filings come out, we download them and we code them to look at things like top contributors, top industries, geography, like which states are they bringing in money from. So one story you could write, which is one that a lot of people have been writing, is just how much money is actually coming from Georgia. That's been a theme this cycle, of especially Democrats getting a ton of out-of-state money. So money from typically, New York and California. So you can see here, about a week after the deadline, this will be updated with new numbers. You see here, John Ossoff got about 17% of his money from Georgia donors, 83% from out-of-state, whereas Purdue gets a little bit more. And then you can also find top metro areas, Atlanta for both of them, as expected, as well as zip codes. So this is helpful information because it's one of the talking points of Republicans, to be sure, is that Democrats are bringing in a lot of money from elsewhere. Industries, I think, is also a really good one. So basically, we code every single donation as having, or every single donor as being under a certain industry. So you can see sort of what kind of corporate interests are looking to influence the race. Purdue gets a lot from real estate, securities and investment. Ossoff getting a lot from, sort of activists and Democratic donors, as well as teachers and lawyers. Retired is always one of the top ones because that's what a lot of donors put down as their information. And then, of course, I think contributors is interesting too. So because the runoff is technically a third election, so there's the primary, the general, and the runoff, donors can give another $2,800 to the candidates, bringing it up to, if my math is correct, $8,400. So you can look at sort of the top contributors. To be clear, this is not Delta Airlines literally giving money to David Perdue. It is employees of Delta Airlines and its PAC, if applicable. So these will go up quite a bit. There's been a lot of talk about David Perdue taking money from pro sports owners. So we can look and see if that has held up. And a lot of talk about Ossoff getting money from big tech. Of course, Alphabet is Google. And again, just employees of Google, not the actual company itself. So those are all useful things to look at. And I'll actually highlight one more thing here. I'll highlight it here. Go to the demographics page on members of Congress. You can actually see how much money they're getting from men and women. This has been another interesting theme of this cycle. Women are giving more and more than ever, although that money is disproportionately going to Democrats. So it'll be interesting to see, for example, how do Loeffler and Perdue fare? How do they compare when it comes to women donors? So you can find Loeffler on here. And she also has this page because she is a sitting senator. You see Loeffler actually does about the same as David Perdue with men and women donors. And you can see sort of the amounts of money coming from each. We tend to see that women give about the same amount of donations as men, but the amount of money is much higher for men. One more thing I'm going to highlight is really important is outside money. So super PACs and dark money groups, typically funded by billionaires, not really taking a lot of money from people like you and me, are going to spend about over $3 billion this election. And they're going to be spending a lot more in the Georgia Senate race. So our outside spending page is really useful. You can see 2020 is twice as much money as 2016 from these groups, just absolutely smashing records. You can go to by race to look at which races are seeing the most money. And then of course, that'll take us to Georgia. And actually this is the other Georgia Senate race. But basically, this will give you a really good summary of all of the groups spending in the race. By the time this is updated daily. So, as we draw closer to the election, these numbers will increase quite a bit. And this will give you sort of a 2020 total. You can look at like which groups are spending the most. And then if you want to see more details about the groups, you can click on them and see exactly, what is this money going towards? This group was in the primary trying to take out Doug Collins, sort of a pro-Loeffler group. And you can look at the donors is really the big thing here to see, who is giving money to it. Turns out it was Kelly Loeffler's husband. If I have that right, I'm actually not totally sure. I know he did bankroll a super PAC supporting her. So yeah, and then I think it's if you want to actually look at the numbers daily, they're on the FEC's website. So if you want to see each independent expenditure filing, right? So super PACs, dark money groups have to file within 48 hours of running like a political ad on TV or anywhere else, any kind of canvassing efforts, billboards, anything like that. That's all on the FEC's website, updated daily. So you can see all of the spending right now is going toward influencing the Georgia Senate race, every single expenditure. And you can see it's a variety of things. It's direct mail, it's canvassing, get out the vote, calling people. All of this has to be reported. And one more thing I'd add is you can sort of contextualize the data for how expensive. We're going to see the Georgia Senate races near record-breaking numbers, especially once the candidates file their numbers. So our most expensive races page is really important for contextualizing that. The North Carolina Senate race right now is the most expensive of all time. This will increase quite a bit after the December 3rd filing. But how high does the Georgia Senate race go? This is the Purdue Ossoff one. Can it get past North Carolina for the most expensive Senate race ever? I predict yes, but we will see. So yeah, I think that's about what I had. Anthony.
Thanks, Carl. I think one question I had for you. So getting back to the December 3rd filing, I know I've seen some stories about, Trump may not want to concede because he can't fundraise. And I think there's a PAC just for his lawsuits. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That's a great point. Yeah. So he has a new PAC now. It's a leadership PAC. So basically what that is a standard PAC that is sort of only somewhat affiliated with the elected officials. So Trump can basically ask for money for his PAC. And basically the PAC does not have the same restrictions on it that campaign committees do. So campaign committees are supposed to spend all of their money on campaigning. They're not supposed to send any money back to the candidate themselves unless it's for something specific, like a salary or for rent. So the Trump campaign, whenever it reports spending money with Trump properties, it has to basically explain why it's spending that money. Generally, they say it's for fundraisers or for rent, office rent, things like that. With a leadership PAC, with Trump's new PAC, it doesn't have those restrictions. So he's basically free to spend that PAC money however he'd like. And this is a really important one. So this is another group that everyone is going to be looking at once the deadline comes out. Let's see here. It's called Save America PAC. So I'm going to have to figure out exactly which one that is. But yeah, I can throw that in afterwards. But yeah, that group will be important to track as well in the future.
So and you kind of touched on this. So getting back to that, obviously, December 24th, December 25th. I mean, so will Open Secrets still be able to analyze those filings, like you mentioned? Do you think that that'll be the case, for folks that may be kind of foreign to campaign finance or might need a little help?
Sorry, what exactly was the?
Oh, so getting back to the December 24th
Mhm.
deadline, and you kind of touched on this already, but do you think Open Secrets will be able to have that analysis the day after, given that holiday time frame, or is that?
Yeah, I actually don't know what our schedule is going to look like. Yeah, I actually don't. We will have the numbers, the summary numbers on our website the day after, I believe. Any kind of analysis that will probably be later that week, I would say, because we'll be busy with the holidays.
And I guess, what would you say is the toughest thing about, for someone who maybe numbers are challenging for them, or there's just a lot to process at once? I mean, is it the verification? Is it going back to the campaign? What's the toughest reporting aspect, would you say, of just like a typical campaign finance story?
I think there's a lot of pitfalls. There's a lot of people writing right now about campaigns taking excess money. Basically, the FEC is telling them you're taking way too much money past contribution limits, and they're framing that as a big scandal. It turns out that is actually rather common, especially in the era of signing up for recurring donations to a candidate. So, I think that the struggle is knowing like how much of a story is there. David Perdue took this much money from this donor, and he authored this bill that would benefit them. Is that smoke or is it fire? I think that's one of the big challenges, is figuring out how big of a story really is this. And yeah, I think that's really the big thing for me.
All right, I'll open it up to questions. If you want to drop it in the chat or unmute yourself, you have that ability, I believe. So, and yeah, Jeremy, if you have anything to add on your end, just feel free to unmute yourself too. So, I'll see if there's anything. All right, I don't think we have any questions, but again, we're recording this, and I have both Jeremy and Karl's presentations. And yeah, I mean, so there's obviously, one of the reasons why we're doing this on a holiday week is because of that December 3rd deadline. And as we could see in Georgia, there's still plenty of stories, especially if you're in Georgia, during that holiday week. So, which is probably peak 2020. We're just, never ending news cycle for a lot of us working. Well, I'd like to thank Karl and Jeremy for your time, and thank you all for coming out, especially on a holiday week to listen in on campaign finance and political ads. So, thanks y'all.
Thanks for having me, Anthony. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thanks a bunch.